Oh boy, let's get started, everyone. I would typically have you on, or I would have myself on some videos so that you could also see my lovely face. But today we are without video due to some technical glitches, so you get just the beautiful PowerPoint slides for us today. But welcome, everybody. I'm Francisco Sirvent, founder of Keystone Law Firm, and this is maybe one day we'll all get back to being able to vacation. I think I hear of some people doing that. So we're going to cover 6 emergency documents to have before your next vacation trip, because we're all looking forward to finally getting out and having a vacation soon. And that's just what we want to do. If you've this is probably not the first time you've tried to learn something from a lawyer about how to protect your family. And I just want to say that if lawyers have been confused, if you've been confused in the past, well, I definitely don't blame you. Oh my gosh, no. Number one, there's a ton of information out there, but lawyers are just historically not skilled educators, and they tend to go into all their legal jargon and terms. I'm not going to do that today. If you haven't been able to figure this out in the past, I really want to put your fears to rest. You can get your family protected. You can get a solid understanding of these documents, even though there's some very sophisticated and complicated laws behind them. You can figure this out, and today you're going to do that. So, because I think what happens a lot of times is the probate system, lawyers, some lawyers out there, they just, they like the way things have always worked, and they want business to be as usual, because when that happens, they make all the big bucks that they make because people aren't planning ahead. So they have their own reasons for not wanting you to succeed. If you've ever been suspicious about the probate industry, I don't have much to say other than you should still be suspicious of it. But I want to encourage you. There's good information. You're going to walk away with a couple of very tangible, easy things to understand so that you can protect your family, so that you can learn this stuff once and for all and actually understand it, okay? Because you know what, we're all, well, I can't say all, I believe that the best of us are here to really protect our families and help each other succeed. And that's what I want to help you do. I want to help you build a life that you can look back on and that your spouse or your kids can look back on and really be proud of and really celebrate, when that day comes. So here are my goals for today. 2 goals. My 2 goals for today are to make sure that you know the only way to truly enjoy your next vacation is to have these 6 emergency documents, because how else are you going to really relax on vacation if this is nagging at you the whole time you're gone? And the only way these 6 emergency documents will be honored year after year after year, when is the emergency going to happen? We don't know. We need this stuff to work when we can't predict it. So how's that going to happen? It's going to happen through something we've created called our TrustCare program. And that's where you're going to get that year after year after year protection. So let's dig in. Now, I have to start us with a little bit of a state bar legalese because, well, it's a state bar. I would like to keep my license so I can keep, working and taking care of my family. So here we go. A couple disclaimers everybody on the webinar today will have to understand. Okay, number 1, Let me just double check. We got a chat message here, no audio. I'm going to say, can you hear me now? Let's just, someone give me a chat box confirmation. Can you hear me now? And I hope you can. My settings seem to suggest I've got good audio. I've got good sound. We got one chat back saying, yes, thank you, sir. Very good. So I will plug ahead, assuming that if you're having audio issues, go back to your email. There is a phone number you can dial in on and access this through the phone. So number one, this is not legal advice for your specific situation, okay? Number two, this is general information of an educational nature. I just want to make sure, I want to share this information. What I've learned over the years, I'm going to share everything I possibly can in the hour we have together. If you have specific questions and answers about, how does this apply to you? How does this apply to my family? What should we do? We're rushing off, to California next week. Ha, 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 even though they're probably still in lockdown. I don't know. Then that's what a private discussion is really for. You're welcome to do that with my office. Do that with someone. Get your specific questions answered. We've protected hundreds and hundreds of our clients' families, and it only so this is good information, but it's educational. Don't jump out there and pull the trigger without getting your specific questions answered, okay? We're having a little audio trouble, so I'm going to pause for just a second and let me grab the phone number. And for those of you who are having audio issues, it's pretty nice. You can just switch over from your phone to, if you're on your phone, and dial, let's see here, and dial I'm going to give you a number, just a second. Let me clear out so I can get over to it. Okay, so in the chat box, if you're having trouble, I just put in a dial-in number and an access code. If you can't quite figure out the settings, you are welcome to do that, and it should launch you right into the audio. Okay, and you can still continue to watch on your computer to get the slides. So, okay, so this is not legal advice. All right, this is what I can do to help you learn this stuff, and just educating and sharing this information is just something I love doing, because I find so many families who are trying to do the best, to protect their spouses, their kids. They're trying to, but this information is just sometimes not delivered in a way that's easy to understand. When I first started, this is my family, and my brag board, has to go up somewhere. But when I started in this industry, I had all the suspicions before that I guess everybody else has about lawyers and really what they were like, and it really shocked me to find that still really the majority of my industry still bills by the hour. They still try to find extra ways to bill extra hours. It's a blank check from their clients, and there's no, it just frustrated the heck out of me. And then when I started doing wills and trust, it blew my mind when I found out that lawyers and professionals that do wills and trusts, they don't plan to make their living on the drafting of the wills and the trusts. They plan to make their real money when their clients families end up fighting about this and going through probate. That just blew my mind. I'm saying, wow, why aren't we preventing all that? And the industry standard is, look, we do these, but people don't come back, they don't follow up, they don't keep their situation up to date, and they don't want to do it more than once, so we can't keep it up to date. So we make all of our clients sign documents saying that us, the drafting professional, we're not responsible for all the problems that are going to come down the pipeline. And in fact, what I found out is that people don't keep it up to date. They don't follow through on the instructions and the advice. And when life changes, they don't call back and ask for help by and large. And so even to this day, we still find tons and tons and tons of people going through probate. And I mean, we're not going to talk a ton about probate today, but that's the court system that has to deal with all these problems when they aren't solved ahead of time. And I just finally gave up, threw my hands up, and I said, forget all you. And that's when I started our TrustCare program, and that is a program that has done power of attorneys and documents and wills and trusts for hundreds and hundreds. I think, you know, I stopped counting at some point. We're well over 1,000 now, and literally all of these families, I have yet to have one single trust that we did get contested. It's not hard. You just have to commit to it. So we've committed to it. We put a guarantee around our clients' documents. We actually warranty these things through our TrustCare program. So we'll talk about that later. The 6 things that I want you guys to walk away with. When you're preparing for a vacation, you got to make sure you have these 6 emergency medical documents. You got to make, you know, and you got to know, you got to wonder, are you going to be able to use these for every single vacation in the future? Or are they specific to each trip? And then as I was putting my last minute touches on the presentation, I'm like, wait, there's one more. So I'm like, okay, bonus document number 7, and we're going to hit all of these. So let's on the 6 emergency vacation documents. We've all heard of the nightmare stories out there, and there was this is not a picture of the actual scene, but there's a young couple that had kids actually from California, and they came to Arizona, to our lovely state of Arizona, for a road trip. And just a nightmare scenario. They got into a very serious car accident, and both mom and dad died in the car accident. Their 3 kids survived, and these were little kids under 10. What ensued was multiple years long legal battle over who's going to raise these kids, but also the decades and probably lifelong trauma that these poor kids are now going to not just because their parents died. I mean, that's bad enough, but now they have the trauma of this nightmare court battle that they were essentially raised in, and that they're going to have to live with that for the rest of their life. People go on vacation all the time, and this doesn't happen every vacation. Thank God. We are blessed with the fun of enjoying some time off and spending some quality time with those we love. But the small, tiny percentage of when an emergency happens, it's too late at that moment to fix anything. And so you guys are ahead of that curve. You're ahead of that. So this is the chance to get it right, okay? What I want you all to understand is one of the big hidden secrets about our system, the way it works. And this just isn't talked about very much. There was a moment in time 10 years ago where it got some publicity here locally in Arizona for about a year, but really only within a small segment of the media. It wasn't as big as the things that are being talked about in the media today, but it got a little bit of attention. You know, I follow these things like, you know, day in and day out, but it's my job. During that year, then it faded away, and it's really not talked about at all. And this is the big, ugly, dirty secret, is that there's not really one probate that happens after we die. You know, I've heard so many people throw out the offhanded comment of, oh, they'll figure it out when I'm gone. Or, you know, oh, my situation's so simple. It's just me, my wife, my kids, everybody gets along, you know, super easy, super simple. And what the big, ugly, dirty secret that you don't know about unless you've either been in it yourself or you've had a close friend or family member who's been in it, is that there's a giant system. The biggest part of probate actually happens while we're alive. It happens before we die. And that system is in our probate courts here in Maricopa County, Arizona, all of Arizona. It's actually all across the country. But in Arizona, it's in probate, it's called a guardianship and a conservatorship. And that's what happens when there's an accident, somebody has a medical emergency, somebody has a stroke. We had a client driving down the road just on their way, running around, had a stroke while they're driving and caused a multiple car accident. I'm so grateful he had his plan up to date. All of these emergency documents were in place. The accident and the medical trauma is not compounded by this massive court guardianship nightmare. Because what happens when you get sucked into that? So we had there's just too many examples to go through, but we had a really terrible example of a gal who called us, and her, really young gal, her dad was in very, very young and unfortunately early stages of Alzheimer's, and she tried to go to the doctor, go to the medical appointments and things with him, and they finally got to the point where they said, I'm sorry, you can't, your dad can't make decisions on his own because he's way past, understanding, and so he needs someone to make decisions for you, and it is not going to be allowed unless you're legally designated, and so you have to get a court order to do that. So the big secret is that once somebody's incapacitated, whether it's a car accident, whether it's food poisoning on vacation, whether it's a stroke, whether it's a long-term illness like dementia or Alzheimer's, if somebody is deemed to be unable to make their decisions for themselves, and you don't have these legal documents in place already, then the only way to be able to make decisions, to get someone, is to go to court. That's the guardianship and conservatorship process. It is a nightmare. To get that process started, it costs anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. The court is going to require at least one and probably two more attorneys off of their internal list be appointed to oversee what's happening. They're going to require a social worker. They're going to require a court accountant to review all the finances and how the money is managed. They're going to require medical reports and possible expert testimony. And this is even if nobody's fighting, even if nobody's fighting at all. This is just a wife trying to take care of her husband. This is a daughter or son trying to take care of their mom or dad. This is a sister trying to take care of a brother. No fighting whatsoever. This is going to be $15,000 to $25,000, and then everything is then public and on the court record, and it brings all these strangers who are in your life now double checking everything that you're doing. Are we allowed to? We had one where the court here got involved over the decision of whether or not a dad should be allowed to move back to Florida to stay with his sisters. And there was a big, long battle between the sisters back there and the other family member here in Arizona, fighting over where dad should be moved. And dad, he, didn't really get a say because he wasn't able to make a decision. And so all these, literally, these complete strangers these court-appointed attorneys, guardian ad litem, the investigator, there was actually another attorney who was a complete stranger to the family, and the judge. And guess what? They made the decision that, yeah, we're going to send him back to Florida and see how it goes. Well, then, you know, he got back to Florida and didn't go so well, had a medical emergency back there, so then had to get another court order to ship Dad back to Arizona. This stuff is ridiculously expensive, and strangers are making your decisions. This is not what you want for your next vacation. So the big secret, the big thing that is not talked about is that these problems come up during life, and it's worse as a problem during life than, in my experience, than it is after death. After death, it's still ugly and messy and gross and not, you want to avoid that. But during life, it's hard because obviously we're still around. Okay, so let me give you the list of these 6 documents, okay? So if you're taking notes, this is where I would write out number 1, number 2, okay? Give yourself spots for 6 documents, okay? Number 1 is a healthcare power of attorney. A healthcare power of attorney. That is a specific designation and your permission for another human being, for somebody else to make your medical decisions for you, only if you can't. So if you can't make a medical decision, then you say, this person is allowed to do it on my behalf. And it'll be legal, it'll be binding, the doctors can follow it, the emergency people can follow it. You know, you're saying, you know, me, Francisco, I filled out this and I put my wife as the person who can make my medical decisions for me if I can't communicate to my doctors. Now, that gets triggered, right, only if I am incapable of making reasonable decisions for myself. So obviously if I'm unconscious, that's going to trigger that. That's going to make that so my wife can make my decisions. If also not just unconscious, but if I'm under the influence of narcotics, if I had some kind of accident or something and I'm now, you know, on some heavy narcotics and just can't make decisions, well, then my wife will have my legal permission to do that. If you're not married, you'd name somebody else, right? And they will have your permission to do that. Or even if I, say I had a stroke and it affected my brain in a way that I really can't put the things together to make a decision. I can hear, I'm aware, I can maybe even communicate, but it isn't to the point to where I can put 1, 2, 3 together in a logical sequence to make a decision. And then this other person, my agent, to make those decisions for me, okay? That's this first document, Healthcare Power of Attorney. The second document is similar to the first. It's a mental health care power of attorney. Mental health care power of attorney. Very similar to the first one, one distinction. The second one is if I've had a brain injury. Okay, either a brain injury or a brain disease, something that affects my brain. So it could be a car accident, it could be a stroke, it could be Alzheimer's, dementia, some type of cognitive issue that's causing some deficit in my ability to rationally make decisions. If that's the case, then my second document, the mental health care power of attorney, will designate, again, somebody to make your decisions with regard to your treatment from a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a neuropsychologist or psychiatrist. So seeking that type of mental health treatment. That's the second document, okay? The third document is, I short as a HIPAA authorization, H-I-P-A-A, HIPAA authorization. That document is really tied in with the first two. I shouldn't say tied in, it supports the first two, but you can have more people on this one than you might name as your agents. On this one, your HIPAA authorization, all it says is, hey, here's a list of people that they can't make any decisions for me. No, 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 no. But they have my permission to call the hospital and see what room I'm in, you know, find out what's going on with my medical situation. They have my permission to do that. You might put more people on that list than you would let make decisions for you, and that's fine. That's why there's a separate document for that. Because you don't have that, then I might say my wife's allowed to make my decisions for me under my first two documents, but I might also say, well, my parents and my sisters and my friend, you know, they're all allowed to call the hospital and say, what's going on with Francisco? Well, that's fine. Okay, that's why we have this third document, this HIPAA authorization, okay? Without that, nobody can call, nobody can find out. It's just basically the hospital's going to say, hey, I'm sorry, our, you know, information about patients is confidential, protected by federal privacy laws. We're not releasing any information. And well, guess what? If you're lying in the hospital unconscious, you can't give permission. It's after the fact. It's too late. The only way we've had to actually go to court to find out where are they keeping mom. You know, it's ridiculous. But the hospitals will literally say, go get a court order. Sorry, you know, bring us a legal document. And if mom's in the hospital somewhere, we can't find her. And if she's unconscious, we can't get her to sign something. The only last choice is go get a court order, and it's tens of thousands of dollars to do that. Okay, document number 4 is a living will. Here's where things start to get confusing. It's a living will. That's the correct term. It's not a will, not a living trust. Okay, don't mix that up with this. This is a living will. All right, living will. What is that? Living will is part of the medical set here for these emergency medical documents. It says to everybody out there, here is what I want if you have to make a decision about my end of life, right? If we get to that ultimate terrible decision that sometimes has to get made of pull the plug or not pull the plug, of put a feeding tube in or not put a feeding tube in, of do we resuscitate again or not. All of those decisions are end of life decisions, and they all have to, and they all go in this document, the living will. In this document, you say what your wishes are regarding those things. Hey, my decision is I don't want to, you know, let me die, I don't care, whatever, whatever, whatever. Fine, you put that in the document and it's legal. Or the reverse. Look, I have specific beliefs, and I believe, you know, you should maintain life as long as possible. Please do everything you can, even if it looks like there's no hope. I do not want you to pull the plug. You can put that in there. These are your decisions, okay? What do you want? That goes in the living will. That goes in this 4th document, okay? Document number 5 is your emergency legal agent. Okay, the first 4 documents that I just mentioned are somewhat more permanent jobs, more permanent instructions, more permanent duties that need to be carried out. This 5th document is something that is a very short term, fills a gap from the moment of the emergency until the more permanent actions need to take place. So here's what, it's called an emergency legal agent. We created this after we discovered there's this little gap that just doesn't exist. It's a short 1-page, single-page document that says, all right, if there's an emergency, here are 3 people who have permission to find out what hospital I'm in and what's going on with the medical situation. They have my permission to secure my house, my personal effects. They have permission to notify my lawyer, my financial advisor, my family, my care, the ones I care about, my loved ones. They have permission to, if I have pets, to make sure my pets are cared for. They have permission to, check my mail and make sure my documents are secure. They don't have permission to do anything more than that. It's a very limited, finite role, but they spring into action very quick. That's the power of this fifth document, the emergency legal agent. Now, the big difference between the other four and this one is that the other four, we don't typically say, I don't recommend you start sharing copies of all those other documents with all the people that you have named in there. I just don't. It's not a good practice. There's lots of reasons for that. This emergency legal agent document, I do. I am a big fan of getting this one done and then jumping and sharing it with them, okay? Because then they can spring right into action. They've got a copy of the document and they can run and do what they need to do. We created a website. You can take a look at it, emergencylegalagent.com. Jump on there, create one right online. It's $29, super easy, and you can just fill that out and not have to worry about it anymore. That's document number 5, okay? The final document is for people who have minor kids, who have kids under the age of 18, okay? Or if you have grandkids that are under the age of 18, make sure you tell this one to your kids, to their parents. It's a appointment of a temporary guardian for the kids. On vacation, you know, sometimes my wife and I, we bring our kids with us. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes our kids go with grandma on vacation. Sometimes they go with a friend up to the lake for a few days. And, you know, they're not in our custody. They're not in our control. Two different scenarios. You got to deal with both, okay? Have a temporary guardian that says, hey, here's the list of people that can have my kids in an emergency. That list, you might put 5 or 10 people on that because, look, it's fine if my kids need to go stay with their friends for a few days. I'm okay with that. What I don't want, if I don't have that document, is my kids are going to have to go into the care of CPS. And that's 100% not going to happen to my kids. Okay? No matter what, no way. They will go stay with my neighbors who I just met a couple months ago. They will go with, I don't know who, any of you guys listening to this call, this webinar, because you probably would do a better job, a way better job. I guarantee it. You're here. You care about this stuff. So that's what this is, the temporary guardian for minors. That's that 6th document. Create that list. People, here's all my people who can have my kids temporary in an emergency. No big deal, right? It's not going to be forever. They're not responsible for raising my kids. It's emergency. Get that done and knock it out. Those are the 6 documents that you've got to have in place before you head out for an emergency. Now, I didn't mention, and I'm going to spend 2 minutes on this just to make sure. This is not I just don't have time to share everything I know about wills and trusts. Those are separate topics. We do education on that. You can look at our upcoming events. We've got another, I think, 10 weeks of these web classes every Thursday at noon, different topics every time. I think next week actually is on the shocking differences between a will and a trust. So jump back in for that one if you'd like. We just don't have time to cover it. That's for a different thing. I think that's a good piece of any emergency plan, is having that trust in place. In Arizona, will, just in my experience, is just not cut it. It ends up being fought over more times than not, and it ends up having to go to court, and that's just what we're trying to avoid. The main problem that we're focusing on and that I've experienced when people don't get it done is that we're just minding our own life. We're minding our business. We're living life, and the emergency happens and it's too late. And then we end up with, with guardianships and conservatorships, and the court literally taking over control and making us adults, these people, we're just living our lives trying to be successful. We end up becoming wards of the state. And what I would rather see is that when that emergency happens, it gets dealt with it from just the pure medical side of it so that you can get right back to life and enjoy the family that you're building. So that's first secret, 6 emergency vacation documents. Second secret, second question I should say, is can you use these for every future vacation? I talked to so many people about this, and it is interesting the conversations that we'll have. A gal just told me last week that she started to think about, doing some power of attorneys and getting her medical documents in place, and she just said this is just so daunting. It's so overwhelming to think about all this stuff. And I for some reason I kind of heard it with fresh eyes. I heard it with fresh eyes. I heard it with fresh ears, and it struck me in a different way. And so what I want to share with you, one of the ways that I coach our clients. I usually only do this one-on-one, in the confines of a private meeting. But I guess each of you are in your own private setting. So here, you don't have to worry about somebody else looking at you and feeling embarrassed in front of them. So let's do this quick exercise. This is something that I do when someone tells me this is overwhelming. I don't know how to make, how am I going to make these decisions? I don't know, I don't know what to do, this or that or the other. And it stops them from ever getting that first version done. And what happens if we don't get something done, we're at 0%. We're saying I'd rather become a ward of the state than make a wrong decision here. And I want to let you know that your first wrong decision is going to be 90% better than becoming a ward of the state. I promise you. I so badly promise you. So here, I want to walk you through this exercise. If you've never done a will or trust or power of attorney or medical directives before, then follow this. If you've done that before, maybe if you did that with me or my team, maybe you've heard this exercise or this question, but I want to encourage you to do it again, because maybe you'll find yourself making a new decision. And so this works both ways. So here we go. Ready? So close your eyes for just a second. Close your eyes. Sit there. It's probably hopefully quiet where you're at. Try to focus on my voice and tune out what's happening around you. And have let your mind wander for a minute. Let it just imagine where you're going to go next. Not on vacation, but just today or tomorrow. Where are you going to go next? You're going to walk out to the garage, get in your car, jingle, jingle, got your keys, vroom, vroom, start the car, pull out onto the street, and start heading wherever you're going. Maybe you're going to get some groceries. Maybe you're going to, I don't know, maybe, are you going to finally meet a friend for coffee or something? Or maybe you're actually headed out to vacation and you're anticipating where you're going to go, where you're going to end up, where you're going to arrive. And then all of a sudden, bam, you don't get there. You are one of the people. We have in Arizona a terrible death rate on our roads. You're one of the 3 people every day in Arizona who die in a car accident, okay? Not from old age, not from a medical issue because of whatever, not because of anything, just pure accident, unexpected car accident, and you don't have a minute left. Okay, now you're in the safe confines of your home right now. You're not in that car accident, thank God. And I pray that doesn't happen to you. But you're sitting here, and I want you to think to yourself, just immediately, right now, who would you want to make your medical decisions for you if you survived the accident, but it's a medical emergency. And number two, who would you want to be in charge of all of your finances? Managing your money, managing your property, whatever you've got. Okay? Who would you want making your medical decisions? Make a decision right now. I promise you that first name that comes to mind is better than the court system. And who's going to manage your money? Who's going to manage your investments? Who's going to pay your bills? Okay, these people don't have to do those jobs without help. They can get help. But who's the decision maker? And then third, if you did perish in that accident, where would you want everything distributed after you passed away? Okay, who should they divide it to? Who should they give it to? In your mind, just think, make a decision for just a moment. It's not going down on a legal paper. It's not being printed out. It's not being chiseled in stone, okay? None of it. And now open your eyes. Okay, those three decisions that you made right in this moment are better than nothing. So much better that I would be willing to put that into legal documents for you so that it was valid, because it's better than nothing. And you know what? What we've experienced and what we've seen so many clients experience is once they do that version of, let's get that out of the way, that simple version of just those 1, 2, 3 decisions, it's much easier to sit back and think long and hard about the more complex or nuanced decisions that maybe can also be made, but don't have to be made right here, up front, right now. Because the bigger problem is twofold. Is number one, that the first version never gets done and you end up becoming a ward of the state. Or number two is the second problem, which is the second big secret that nobody in my industry talks about. There's never been any press around this. You will not find any other lawyers or estate planners talking about this. Our firm, it's our rallying cry, is that these documents don't get honored if they are old. They just don't. Something happens in an emergency, we pull out somebody's documents, or the family comes to us and says, here's their power of attorney, here's the healthcare directives, here's the will, here's the trust, and they're asking me, they're asking my team, why isn't the bank letting us do what we need to do? Why isn't the doctor letting us do what we need to do? Why isn't the hospital letting us do what we need to do to take care of them? And our only answer is because these documents are old. And that's what they are hearing from the bank, from the realtor, from the hospital, from the whatever, fill in the blank, all these third parties. What's happening is that our society has become such a lawsuit happy society that I kind of can't blame all these companies for not honoring documents that are old. I mean, I can't control whether, Banner as a I don't even know, probably $1 billion company will honor documents that are old, but sometimes they just don't. And that's the reason they give. So how old is too old? I wish I had a black and white answer, because I wish the law gave us a black and white answer, but it doesn't. There's no law in Arizona that says how old is too old. So here's my experience. Here's what I've seen. I've seen that most banks and out there, if you go ask them how old is too old, their policy books will say things like 90 days or 30 days. Literally, that is what their internal policies will say. We've asked Schwab, we've asked Wells Fargo, we've asked Bank of America, we've asked Chase, and their internal policies are insane, and nobody can even try to comply with that. So what we've done with a lot of families, with hundreds and hundreds of families actually, is we put them on an annual checkup, and that seems to be working great. We've done this over 1,000 times so far. We've not had any of them be called into question because they're quote unquote too old. So once a year seems to be working, and this has been going on now for 7 years. So we've got a pretty good track record so far, especially with the number of clients that we're helping. So it seems to me I'm comfortable recommending once a year checkup. Once a year, go through your checklist and say, is anything need to be up to date? And that's kind of what this gal did. Became our client. She liked these 1-minute decisions that I just walked you through. And then it's easy. Updating and improving it, super quick, super easy once you get it done. And you can kind of make 1-minute decisions all along. Make a 1-minute decision, live with it. Next time, make another 1-minute decision. And so the second secret that I want you to walk away with from this is start quick and then improve over time, okay? Now, because the reality is, so we don't know if I am personally, me, Francisco, if I'm going to be one of these 3 people every day that don't make it home because of a fatal car accident. I don't know myself, right? But so I need to prepare for that because I love my family. I love my kids. I don't want them to, it's out of my control whether I'm one of those 3. But what's in my control is doing what I can so that if that happens, they knew I loved them. They knew I protected them. They knew I did what I could to make sure they didn't also have a financial disaster on top of my death. So I don't know if I'm the one of those 3. So I'm going to start quick. But the statistics are on my side that I'm not going to be one of those 3, right, guys? Let's all kind of cheer up a little bit here. I'm probably not one of those 3. So I'm going to have the chance to improve over time. That's the process we recommend for families, right? Start quick, but then improve this over time. Make it better, make it more robust. Think about the nuances you want to, designate maybe some custom, really cool language in there. Well, if this happens or if that happens, and make it fun, make it interesting. But you'll have the time to do that, and that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it so your family, when they get this gift, they can really see that you poured your heart and your soul into thinking about them. This is all about them. All right, so who's ready for the bonus document? The bonus document comes out because we've lived this with too many of our clients and their experience having to go in and help when there is an emergency. Is this, they walk into husband or wife or sister or brother or mom or dad's office, and it's the picture on the left. If you're seeing the video, the picture on the left is a giant nightmare office, which probably looked similar to what my office looked like a few years ago, more than a few years ago, when I kind of realized, okay, this is a bad thing. So we need to get to the point where it looks like the box on the right, a nice organized file that takes the responsibility and belief that, hey, I care about the order of my financial house. I want my financial house to be in order, not just for me, but for my family, for the ones that I love. Because if something happens, they're going to have such an easier time. If they are not, if I don't do this, what am I saying to them? And then you know what? There's this whole extra benefit that while life is going along, you're way more organized. I mean, the case study that we had to deal with is a gal who had to go in and clean up her mom's affairs. And, oh, you guys, that's my dog, super cute Rex in the background. She had to go in and clean up her mom's finances. It's literally been 5 years of her digging through the house, digging through boxes. She had to quit her job and move here to really do it. It's been a full-time job of taking care of her mom and figuring out the finances. You know, some things only send an annual statement. Some things never do. And I think 5 years later, I think now we think we have a complete picture of her mom's financial life. It's taken 5 years. She had to quit her job And I don't want my family to have to do that for a mess that I leave behind. So 7th bonus document is a asset report. You got to do it, okay? It's not fun. It's not easy. Our sister company, Keystone Law Partners, they are nerds about this stuff, and they actually do it for you, right? It's just beautiful. And actually, one of the things they do for all of our clients is they'll do something called a retirement map. Well, they'll do all that for free. They'll put it on a nice one-page sheet picture of, bam, here's everything in your financial life, and here's how it works for you financially. And you get a ton of really good value out of that, because not only you get that one pager, but you also get, like, they'll give you tons of ideas and recommendation and information about, how you can invest and how your retirement income will look and how the tax situation will be affected. And, you get to literally grab all of that info and say, Jiminy Christmas, and you just kind of run with it and help make your whole financial life better. But your financial life has to be in order. You've got to have an asset report, and it's got to be accurate, and it's got to be current, period. It just, bingo, it has to. There's no excuses there. All right, so now we've got just a few minutes left. I literally sometimes just wish I had, well, I guess I could have more time to do this. I'll say I wish I could figure out how to capture the attention of an audience for 40 hours and just teach everything I possibly know about this stuff. But it's kind of drinking from a fire hose feeling, because there's no way I can get it all in 60 minutes. So we got through what we can. Here are the 6 documents again. If you want to take a quick look at that. What I really want to spend the last few minutes sharing with you guys is some information about how we do this. Oh, we have a little image glitch for you right there. So that's what happens when technology, doesn't work in your favor. It's not supposed to have a triangle with an exclamation on it. It's supposed to have the Keystone brand up there. Really what I want is for you guys to know what you can do to fix this for your family, and specifically how we do it at Keystone. I mean, Keystone Law Firm, it's just a unique deal here, because when we started this, let's see, I started it 13 years ago. I literally left my last quote-unquote job 13 years ago to start Keystone, because I was just completely fed up with the way the industry was building wills and power of attorneys and doing all this stuff for families, saying, here you go, you're protected, but really doing it just to give themselves this pipeline of probates down the road. And it's literally a business model that just crank out hundreds and thousands of wills and cheap trusts and just charge as little as you can so you can get them all in your books and build up your giant book of probates. And that's a legitimate business model for my competitors. And so anyway, 13 years ago, I'm done with it. Like, I'm trying to protect my own family. My clients are trying to protect their families. That's the wrong way to do it. So I created this thing called the TrustCare program, and it's not rocket science. And I just shared, a bunch of how it works with you guys. It's not rocket science. Anybody can do this. You could do this on your own. I'm going to share with you how we do this for people, because sometimes it's just hard to do stuff on your own, to have the discipline and to have the commitment to learning all of the information out there. And sometimes it's just better to have somebody you can bounce ideas off with so you can make decisions. It's just an objective outside third party. And so that's what we offer with our TrustCare program, is that, we create all this stuff to begin with, but then we just protect and keep it up to date. We make sure there's an annual checkup. We make sure things are up to date, that nothing ever gets old. We're just invested, and we put a guarantee around our clients' plans. We actually do the reverse of what my industry does. My industry says, no, you have to sign this document, client, that says we aren't liable. Well, our firm does the reverse. We say, here's a document that says, stick with us, and we will guarantee your plan we will guarantee your family doesn't go to probate, because if it does, we pay the probate fees. So here's how that works, right? So we do a lot of public education. This is kind of the process. First, we try to just educate, and take this information and do with it whatever you will, whatever you can to help your family. But it usually starts with some education and learning what is all this information that's happening. Okay. Second thing, the next step is a one-on-one private appointment. We just barely opened our office to doing those in person. Sometimes we are absolutely doing those by video call. So we're just doing all of them by video call. Super easy. You just click. We don't use this exact same platform that you guys are on right now to do that. We use a simpler platform through Google and do a video call. That private appointment is one-on-one. You get your questions answered, or if you're married, you have to bring your spouse, of course, so both of you attend. And there's really no pressure. It's just a information gathering appointment where you ask a bunch of questions, you answer info about your family and what you guys have going on, and then you look at your options and some different packages that we have, which I'll show you in just a second. And then you say, you know what, this sounds good. I like how you guys do business. I feel comfortable with the systems you guys have. I feel like you're really going to take care of my family long term. Then you make a decision. You move forward. You go 3. You start building it. Or at the end of that private appointment, you say, you know what, good information, useful. I'm going to go in a different direction. No harm, no pressure. That's totally fine. You will have learned some great information. All of our services, they are flat fees. We package them in what we've experienced most people need and break it down into chunks. It's all flat fees. I don't give specific quotes over these seminars, these web classes, because obviously it's a one-on-one thing you have to decide about. But it's neat because you get to sort of pick from a menu and build up whatever you want. You can say, hey, look, I want the whole package because I want everything that the Rockefellers had. Okay, well, that's going to be, $25,000 plus, whatever, right? Or no, I want to start something simple and basic because I just want to make a 1-minute decision right now. Great, our firm, they start around $1,600 or somewhere in between. You want to add this thing, that thing, the other thing. You get to pick. You know what those prices are before you ever get started. And that's one of the things that we have a commitment to all of our clients is costs of anything before you move forward. You're never on the clock with us. You're definitely not giving us a blank check, okay? If you're already a TrustCare client, so occasionally we get clients, I can't see the list of who's on right now, bunch of people joining us, which is great. If you're already a TrustCare member, if you're current, that's great. You don't need to come to one of these first appointments. That's for people who are just meeting us for the first time. You come back for a review. You come back for your annual review. TrustCare clients, though, TrustCare members, here's who should be one, right? If you're already in, awesome. You're part of the club. If you're not yet in, here's how you can kind of decide if it's right for you or not. Number one, I hope you can tell just by my personality, I am not one of those grumpy lawyers in a suit and tie every day and, giving you the res ipsa loquitur and I can't even remember all the Latin phrases I learned in law school, legalese. I'm giving it to you straight, and that's how I operate. That's how all of us on my team operate. We aren't grumpy cats. We are friendly, and if that's you, you'll fit really well with us. Number two is anyone who owns real estate. If you own real estate, it's a absolute big giant risk that gets sucked into probate because it's got a registered title that a third party is going to have to go through with a title company and a real estate agent in order to sell it and get new title insurance. That's a absolute key to protecting your house. And then your finances, any combination of all your financial assets from checking, savings, brokerage, stock, mutual funds, IRAs, annuities, life insurance, REITs, CDs, bonds, trying to think of everything on the list of financial assets. When I say life insurance, everything. If all of that is accumulated to be up over $100,000, absolutely, no question, the probate guardianship fees that could drain that thing in 3 months are a huge risk, and you'd get a ton of value out of being a TrustCare member. So here's what that next step looks like. I just want to give you guys before you leave. So it's a discovery hour. If you haven't ever done business with us before, with Keystone Law Firm, then your first step is a discovery hour. This is a private appointment, so you can, you know everything you share with us is confidential. It actually is attorney-client privileged, meaning nobody can force us to disclose it, and my team is locked down. They cannot share anything. The old adage where the criminal can admit to his lawyer that he committed murder and the lawyer can't say anything. Don't do that for us, please. But it's that strict. Number one, you're going to share. We were talking about parents the other day, and I reused this slide. But you're going to talk about your issues, your goals, and any options relevant for you. And that way you have the benefit of the one-on-one opportunity to get your questions answered, because I really want you to walk away from that, whether you hire us or do business with us or not. I want you to walk away from that with real clarity about your decisions. Just clarity, right? Just help me understand what is the answer to this. What is the answer to that? I don't want BS. I don't want to, monkey around. What is the answer to A, B, C? That's what you walk out of that appointment with. And it's for that reason that we don't do those first appointments with attorneys. Like I said at the beginning, attorneys are really good at making things more complicated than they need to be and going into the weeds and digging into the legalese. And I just have discovered that it's much more effective for clients to meet with somebody who's specifically trained how to have that first appointment in a no pressure, non-threatening, just comfortable, friendly, fun, interesting atmosphere. And so we do with our client relationship manager, and she's great at those, and that's who meets with all of our clients first. Here's what you get out of that first meeting. Okay, the discovery hour, the value there, $500 value. You'll walk out with a personal information book organizer. That thing helps you get your financial life in order, finally, once and for all, so that you can literally have an emergency the next day. And it's not all the legal documents done, but it's organized in a way that your family will be able to know what's in your head, so they can pick up from there. The myths of financial security. If you haven't gotten that from Keystone Wealth Partners, we give that as part of our first meeting. So you will learn the myths that come from the financial industry. There's just so many shysters out there in that industry that will break through all of them and just, again, give you some no BS answers for that. A successor trustee handbook worth $197 because if you're going to take care of your family, one of the things you want to do is make sure they know what to do in an emergency. That's what that handbook is for. Easily going to save them 100 hours of their life, which I hope and I can imagine is worth at least a couple $100 for them. And then my book, one of my books, Pack Your Parachute. We'll give you a digital copy of that. So that book talks about 12 other topics that I don't have time to go into today, but you can read and dig in and learn about those as you see, as you want to, and do that at your own pace. Total value there over $1,400. And this is something that I don't really see any lawyers do. The discovery hour for always is a 100% satisfaction guarantee. And that means that you get to the end of that meeting and you say, gosh, Francisco, that was a waste of time because I met with your client service coordinator and wow, I just feel like I wasted an hour. No questions asked. We'll refund your money. But the value of that appointment at $1,400 is $125. We ask for that commitment from you to value your commitment to that appointment and to honor my staff time as well, so that they know you're committed to at least learning what your options are. And it's funny, I guess, because my staff is beating me up over this, and so what we've done is we've actually decided to offer for some time a limited price on that at $75. And what I I've agreed to do is for those who come to these this web class is give you that benefit, all right? So that's just a little gimme from me. Happy to make that courtesy discount for you as a professional courtesy. If you do want to take advantage of that. And the way you do that, we make it pretty easy. No hard pressure or anything from me. All you have to do is just jump on our scheduler and come to an appointment in the next couple of weeks. If this stirred something in you and you thought, I wonder if I'm protected here, we try to make it really no risk, right? Yes, there's a financial commitment, $75, but if it's no value at the end of it, you get a refund. I'm happy to make sure my team makes it super valuable for you, that they give you that $1,400 worth of value for your time. You just jump on this URL, www.bit.ly/Keystone appointment, and my team, you'll just follow through. You just find a time that works, and you will just show up. There's not really anything you have to do to prepare for that appointment. It's pretty no pressure. If you want to find some documents and you want to try to get organized, you can, but I really encourage you don't have to. It's better to go to that appointment first and learn what do you need to get organized and what do you need to pull together as far as documents. It's usually a lot less than what most people think. And so that's one of the things you get out of that appointment is to know what you should get organized, what you should get together. I just put that link in the chat box as well. So jump on there. That'll be up until midnight, till 8 p.m. tonight. Get scheduled. If it's something you want to do, you should be able to find a time that works for you. Obviously, we have regular business hours, and it'll just be, you can let us know if you want to do that over the computer, through a video call, or if you want to come into the office and meet in our conference room. We do have some logical, level-headed policies in place about masks and sanitation, extra sanitation on all of our facilities, so you're safe if you do feel comfortable coming to the office. That is all I had for today. If you have questions, I encourage you to see that the Discovery Hour is the place for you to get your questions answered. That is the best place. We try to make it so that you have a great experience getting your questions answered, and you get the complete answers, the full answers. But you're also welcome to call our office or email team@KeystoneLawFirm.com. And in all likelihood, most likely, they're going to say, yeah, you'll get your questions answered at a Discovery Hour, just so you know. It's just hard. I've done enough of these appointments when I used to do them that usually your question is going to prompt us to ask you 5 or 6 questions so that we can give you a real answer. I assume you don't want answers that are full of BS. So in order to get a real answer, there's probably going to be a longer discussion that needs to be had. All right, that concludes it. I ran a little bit over. I apologize for taking more of your time. I hope it was worth it. Definitely come back next week. Jump back on the Eventbrite page or our website, KeystoneLawFirm.com/events to sign up for next week, and come back to learn the really shocking difference between 6 shocking differences between a will and a trust. And if you have anybody else who needs to learn that information, let them know. Be happy to invite them and have them join with us. All right, guys, make it a great day and go take care of your families.